is for somebody, whoever is going to argue the pro on this topic, whether or not Trump should have been convicted, should at the very least be able to describe exactly what Trump did, like what was the actual mechanical thing that he did that was criminal.
That also had the same false information.
I think he's
so
missing
you ended up with 34
in commission of another crime, and Lactoid's going to stick him on
falsified
that.
ledgers, falsified invoices, which are business documents. And in the state of New York, you can't put false information on business documents. That's a crime.
And do you know the thing that turned it from a alleged misdemeanor to a felony?
Yes,
Yeah,
there was actually
crime.
3 possibilities that Alvin Bragg came up with.
The reason why it's not tax fraud is because he wound up paying more in taxes because of this.
But the idea that like Donald Trump is falsifying his checks in order to stop Melania Trump, somebody that nobody has any proof of her going through any of this stuff, is kind of really reaching, in my opinion. Especially since Michael Cohen went on the stand and said that this was because of the election. He testified to that.
You agree it would have to be done for the commission of a different crime, right?
Which is 17 dash.
Yes. That's the one that turns the misdemeanor into a felony.
Yes.
And so that second crime would be, with the intent to commit the second crime. That's important. And so the intent here is to unlawfully influence the 2016 election. How can you prove that he was trying to influence the 2016 election with this decision to pay hush money if he'd been already trying to silence Stormy Daniels since 2011?
If you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. It really helps with the algorithm. And make sure to check out the Discord and other social links in the description.
Let's see. Y'all's topic was the New York trial.
Oh, hold on one second.
Is that correct?
Yes, the New York criminal trial, to be specific. There was like 3 New York trials, I think.
Fantastic. Okay, so who wants to go first on y'all? Do we need to flip another coin?
Nah, it's Lactoid. It's up to you.
I'd like you to go first. If that's
Okay. That's fine.
Fantastic.
All right. So the reason why I chose...
Hold on. Let me put up the start timer here, because we're gonna do openings 5 to 7 minutes. And go. You're good.
The reason why I chose this topic is because I think that the New York criminal trial is the least consequential of all of the indictments that he has. I don't really know too much about the Georgia trial, so that one could have been less consequential, or at least not as strong. But I still think that the evidence is there to prove that he did the thing that they were accusing him of. And Lactoid seemed to be under the impression on our last debate that the Hunter Biden trial wasn't political because Hunter Biden actually did the thing that they were accusing them of. But he doesn't think that Trump did the thing that they were accusing him of in New York. And that's basically what I want to debate him about. Is did Trump do it? Did he falsify these business documents?
Okay, fantastic. Do you want to go ahead and open up with the? Was that your opening? Is that?
Yeah, that was my opening.
All right. Lactoid.
Yeah. So when we agreed to this, and I just want to point this out, when we agreed to this debate, one of the things that I asked, I think is an absolute necessity, is for somebody, whoever is going to argue the pro on this topic, whether or not Trump should have been convicted, should at the very least be able to describe exactly what Trump did, like what was the actual mechanical thing that he did that was criminal, and what should he have done differently to avoid the charges. I was hoping to get some of that during the opening, but because my opening sort of, I
can tell you right now if you want.
Sure, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So what Trump specifically did was he signed off on checks that that claimed that Cohen was the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels was a retainer fee for Cohen when it was paying him back for the hush money payments. And what that ended up doing is it led to invoices and ledgers being created because of those checks, and that also had the same false information.
I think he's
so
missing
you ended up with 34
in commission
of
of
these,
another crime, and
falsified
Lactoid's going to
checks,
stick him on
falsified
that.
ledgers, falsified invoices, which are business documents. And in the state of New York, you can't put false information on business documents. That's a crime.
And do you know the thing that turned it from a alleged misdemeanor to a felony?
Yes,
Yeah, the commission
there
of
was
another
actually
crime.
3 possibilities that Alvin Bragg came up with. 4, but the judge threw one out. So let me find that real quick. Tax fraud, um, FECA violation, which is the federal election violation, and New York election law, which was the big one that Alvin Bragg really harped on. Said that it was essential to his. It was the most essential one to his case. And the
All
law
right.
specifically is 17-152.
Okay, fantastic. Lactoid,
All
going to
right.
open
So
up now, yeah.
Oh, I do
Yeah.
apologize for not getting this to you sooner. I really should have. That's my bad.
Yeah, that's fine. Move on. Lactoid, you want to do your opening now? Are you ready to prepare for
yeah,
that?
no, that's good. I'd like to get the opening. There's some facts of what was said just now that are correct, and some that aren't, and also some that require some critical context. So the actual convictions, 34 felony counts that Trump was convicted of, is falsification of business records, which is normally a misdemeanor, just to be clear. That was well past the statute of limitations. But you can turn it into a felony, and which has a longer statute of limitations, if it's done to commit some other crime, right? So if you falsify business records without the intention of doing some other crime, like falsifying in order to do some other crime, like the other crime being the end goal, right? If you don't do that, then it's just a misdemeanor. And there's no way that Bragg could have gone after Donald Trump for those for 34 misdemeanors, because the statute of limitations had been long gone. So the theory was, well, actually, we're going to extend the statute of limitations by alleging that they're felonies. That way we can charge them. And the theory behind charging them as felonies was, well, the law allows us to charge them as felonies if they're done with the intention of committing some other crime. Now, what other crime was Donald Trump allegedly doing by sending hush money? Well, there's as was mentioned, there's 3 theories, 2 of which I have the exact same response for, but one is violation of FECA, as was just mentioned, specifically federal campaign finance law, New York election law, 2016 election interference, and tax fraud. And when asked to specify which exact crime that Trump actually falsified business records in order to commit, Bragg said he didn't have to specify, and the judge agreed that you didn't actually have to specify which of the 3 crimes, alleged crimes, that Donald Trump falsified the business records in order to commit. My allegation here is that all 3 of these utterly fail, and the reasons are pretty straightforward. So when Trump made the payments to Cohen, they were for legal expenses. Now, I'll tell you, legal expenses is a wide variety of things. Reimbursing somebody for legal expenses can be not only for legal defense work, for the actual hourly rate, but it could also be for expenditures for a mediator, expenditures for some other third party,
legal expenses,
a
I need to see the justification for that one.
Order like a court transcript. There's all sorts of things that can be fall under legal services, and it's not abnormal for attorneys to front certain bills first. And so there's a couple assumptions we have to make here. We have to make the assumption that Donald Trump knew exactly what these payments for legal services were. Now, if he didn't know, then you obviously can't argue that he had the intent of falsifying this to commit further crimes. So the only, and by the way, it's unclear exactly if he knew for sure, but we have to obviously roll with the assumption that he did, and the jury obviously thought so. So if we're rolling with the assumption that he did, it means that Donald Trump knew exactly what these bills were for, and he intentionally gave Cohen money to pay for the hush money payments that were made to Stormy Daniels. The reason why it's not tax fraud, or the reason why the business transaction falsification wasn't done with the intent of tax fraud, is because he wound up paying more in taxes because of this. When you make payments to your lawyer, that income is taxable. And so if he just simply made it by himself, it wouldn't be taxable. The idea that he did this with the intent to commit tax fraud just simply makes no sense and is incredible. When it comes to the federal finance violation and the New York election law, it's my allegation that the hush money payments were not done with the primary intent, the but-for intent as required by FICA standards, in order to influence the election, the 2016 election. What's my evidence for this? Well, it turns out that Michael Cohen had been trying to silence Stormy Daniels for several years prior to 2016. In fact, in May of 2011, Donald Trump said that he wasn't going to run for president, so he stopped running for president. And then later that year in October, Michael Cohen used his influence to shut down a story from Stormy Daniels that was going to be published in a magazine called The Dirty, meaning that the efforts to stop Stormy Daniels from talking about their affair happened significant period of time prior to the 2016 election and prior to Donald Trump even announcing his candidacy. Why is Donald Trump interested in stopping somebody talking about their extramarital affair? Maybe because he's married and he doesn't want his wife finding out about the fact that he had an extramarital affair with Stormy Daniels. Or it could affect his business prospects.
At least we accept
There's
that.
plenty of reasons why somebody might not want to have their extramarital affair put out to the public, and it's perfectly, and especially if this is done before he's running for president, the most logical explanation is that he was not
2 minutes left.
Okay, the most logical explanation was that he was not intending to shut up Stormy Daniels with hush money, which is perfectly legal, by the way, to shut up Stormy Daniels with hush money in order to influence the election. It most likely was done for a different reason, given the fact that he'd been doing it for years prior. The but-for reasoning is essential for federal finance violations because, again, we have plenty of things you can do that are not in violation but could still help you run. For example, when Hillary Clinton was running for office in New York, she had to move to New York. So she bought a house in New York. She did not report this, obviously, as a federal finance donation, because you can't do that, and it'd be ridiculous if you were forced to do that, even though technically it's somewhat related to your campaign. There needs to be a but-for cause established. But for you running for president, would you have tried to silence Stormy Daniels? Well, we already know that Donald Trump was trying to silence Stormy Daniels before he was ever running. So obviously, the but-for fails. In order for Donald Trump to not be charged with these 34 felonies,
exactly, so I don't know
really
for sure if
the
that
prosecutor
checks
is
out.
saying,
Seems
is
reasonable, though.
alleging, is that Donald Trump should have used federal campaign money to pay off Stormy Daniels
30
and
seconds.
reported it. That is what you have to believe as a jury to believe Alvin Bragg's case, which is that, yes, Donald Trump should have used campaign finance money, which is a ridiculous proposition for all the reasons I've said before. Both the judge, the jury, and the prosecution were biased for reasons we'll get into.
All right, fantastic. With 15 seconds to spare, we now have a record for longest opening here that I'm sure Scott's going to break in the next round. All right, now I guess we're open. Points of contention. Oh, one last thing. The judges, y'all, they're still here. They're listening, I'm sure, because they're very wise judges that would never just turn off their cameras and run away. Yeah, I know y'all. I'm just giving y'all some shit. If y'all have questions, I just want to start that they're y'all able to ask them. They just need to let me know, and then I will have them ask them themselves, and y'all can have exchange with them during this time period. Go ahead, Cluck. What any thoughts?
Your opening statement leads me to believe that you think that the hush money payments themselves is what Donald Trump is on the hook for.
No, so well, technically, yes, because in order to establish the felonies, the business falsification needs to be in furtherance of a different crime.
Yeah. So the question is, why did he falsify the documents? Not why did he pay the hush money?
So again,
why would he put that Michael Cohen that money was going to Michael Cohen for legal retainers when it was for hush money?
I'm not exactly just to be legal expenses. I'm not exactly sure if that is a misrepresentation. Again, there's plenty of reasons why you might pay your lawyer, hey, legal services, kind of a general broad catch-all. But if we're rolling with the assumption that he intentionally mislabeled this as legal expenses instead of, hush money, the answer is very simple, which is that he didn't want to get caught having an extramarital affair.
Okay. So your assumption is that Melania is like going through his business records to look for any type of hush money. Like, why would he put himself at legal jeopardy in order to hide the fact that he's having an extramarital affair?
I think it's probably pretty clear that he didn't think that he would be in legal jeopardy because it's not illegal to pay hush money to cover up an affair. And not only could Melania have gone through his personal records or his business record, but also Stormy Daniels, who, again, going back many years, at least until 2011, had already demonstrated a habit of trying to leak this for money. And so she gets a check saying hush money on it. You think that that's not going to help her in discrediting Donald Trump?
Well, if she was paid off, then she wouldn't be able to legally say anything.
Yeah, but she
about the affair.
Well, hold on. She got in trouble because she broke the NDA. She was under an NDA that she broke. I mean, this person was a loose cannon. She just ignored NDAs.
Yeah, that would be possible. But the idea that like Donald Trump is falsifying his checks in order to stop Melania Trump, somebody that nobody has any proof of her going through any of this stuff, is kind of really reaching, in my opinion. Especially since Michael Cohen went on the stand and said that this was because of the election. Like he testified to that.
No, I understand. So Michael Cohen and Donald Trump had at that point had an incredibly tumultuous relationship. But the answer, and this is the answer that Michael Cohen never gave, if this was done in order to directly influence the election, why was Michael Cohen silencing Stormy Daniels' stories as early as 2011?
It's possible that they had a different reason for trying to silence Stormy Daniels in 2011, but the outlook on the election, especially after the Hollywood Access Hollywood tapes came out, and they were freaking out about that. The idea that the election wasn't a part of the reason why they falsified these documents is just kind of ridiculous.
It's got to be more than just a reason. It has to be a but for, which means that if Donald Trump was not running, would Donald Trump have had Michael Cohen try to silence that story? And the history would seem to demonstrate is even when he wasn't running for president, he had Michael Cohen try to silence that story because, again, he doesn't want his wife finding out. It makes perfect sense.
I don't think he would just lie about it.
You don't want your business associates finding out. Again, assuming that this actually was intentionally mislabeled, it's very possible that Michael Cohen just said, "Hey, here's the bill," or perhaps he didn't even issue the payments themselves. He didn't organize the payments themselves.
He did organize them. He
testified. He testified.
I read most of it.
He's on tape talking to Trump about it.
So, what specifically does he say on tape? Because he doesn't specifically talk about those, like all 34 transactions. There's no way.
Well, he's talking about.
I don't know if that's the standard we have to reach
in order to pay the money to
right.
Yeah.
So so I've heard that phone call. There is a phone call. It's unclear what the time proximity is between this phone call and when the checks were made. But regardless, Michael Cohen's way of organizing this payment to Stormy Daniels is actually somewhat irrelevant to the charges themselves. If you want to go after Michael Cohen for creating shell companies, maybe in violation of certain tax codes, you can. Nothing on those tapes indicates that Donald Trump directed this to happen. Nothing indicates that Donald Trump knew it was illegal or that there was some kind of issue with it. Remember, Donald Trump is not a lawyer. Michael Cohen is. If your lawyer is telling you this is how I'm going to organize the payment, a lay person, it's perfectly rational for them to say, okay, that makes sense.
So so you do agree that Trump knows that Michael Cohen had taken out a mortgage on his house in order to pay Stormy Daniels off, and that he was signing over checks to Michael Cohen in order to make him whole. This was a quote from Trump: "Make him whole." That was a repayment to him for Stormy Daniels and not a retainer. You agree that he knows all that, right? At least.
Okay, hold on. Well, we're not doing anything.
It's a little bit of a loaded term. When you say it's not a retainer,
I need to make
I think it's perfectly reasonable and doesn't necessarily indicate malintent to pay somebody for legal services, and that legal services covers things like legal bills, but also, hush money, quote unquote, NDA settlements. This is perfectly it's not irrational. Did Donald Trump have an idea that he was paying out money to have Stormy Daniels get hush money so she wouldn't talk about it? Yeah, I think so. If I was in the jury,
what I'm asking is specifically the checks that he signed. I think what was it, 9 checks that he signed.
I'm a judge for this round. They went first. I debate next.
For legal purposes, not to pay him back for hush money, but for legal purposes. I'm pretty sure it was for
NDA settlements like hush money, as we say it, that's a legal purpose, right?
I was going to say,
you're paying somebody a legal settlement. You're saying, hey, I'm going to pay you this. In exchange, you're not going to talk about this. The only question here is, was this done Like, first of all, was it falsification, which I'm not even convinced about that. But rolling with the assumption that even it is falsification, then you have to prove that it was done in the furtherance of a separate crime, which I don't think you get to prove that, given that, again, he paid more in taxes. Crazy that they could that could even be rationally construed as a intent, but also that he had been trying to silence Stormy Daniels, this story, since way before he was even running for president, because he's married and he has business properties. Do you think Hillary Clinton, does Hillary Clinton get to use campaign finance money to buy houses in New York? Should she be required to do that?
Well, I think that
no.
Just because
so long as the NDA is legal.
Let me jump in here. I got a question from the peanut gallery, right? And their question is the Lactoid here. So, what exactly do you think was wrong since the jury convicted him on 34 counts and all this whatnot? Where exactly did they go wrong in this case? Was it the judge's instructions? Was it the jury's decision? What specifically was wrong? I know you talked about the but-for, but the chat wants you to clarify how if there's no but-for, how the jury and the judge could come to this conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, so there is, I think, bias at every level here during this trial, right? Okay. So Alvin Bragg, he, as part of his election campaign, literally ran on getting Trump, right? He specified that. The judge had donated money to an anti-Trump cause prior to this, for which he was investigated. And the jury is from a pool of overwhelmingly anti-Trump voters. Trump is an incredibly divisive person, obviously. He has a history of being controversial and being incredibly disliked, especially among urban New Yorkers. And so, yeah, I think it's very possible that the jury just looked at all the evidence and decided, you know what, I'm going to ignore all this, history.
Well, I think that's right, Chris.
Part of the issue too is,
their disagreement over whether the hush money payments were legal. I don't think Liberal even disagreed. I think a big part of this is Lactoid's argument relies, or his argument. Lactoid claims his argument relies on the payments being
about
illegal.
Whether or not he actually committed these crimes, as I am, I don't think so. I don't know. He's probably going to be more hesitant to testify to I slept with her and paid her hush money. So what? What's illegal about that? Because he's kind of stuck in a position where he can't say that. But the question is not whether or not he can say that. The question is whether or not he committed 34 felonies that are only felonies because, hey, we couldn't get them on the misdemeanor, which I think is already a dubious proposition at best. And then we're going to turn them into felonies because we're going to allege that he committed a different crime, that he falsified with the intention of committing a different crime. And what's that? What's the crime? He should have used campaign finance. He should have reported that as a donation when he gave Stormy Daniels hush money. That's what they're arguing. They are saying that.
I think you've got. Did you read the election law that they're accusing him of violating?
I mean, not today, but I have read it. Yes, I did a deep dive into this back when I had a prior debate about this. I know one thing for a fact.
Bro, is his source.
Just trust me, bro. I know one thing. I know one thing for a fact. Like the allegation of Bragg, in order to not have been charged with the felonies, at least according to two of the theories, was that Donald Trump should have logged the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels as campaign expenses. He should have made that public. That's what Alvin Bragg was saying that he should have done in order to avoid the felonies. That's ridiculous.
Can I read these laws out real quick? I'm a layman.
Feel free to rebuttal.
Yeah, Lactoid's a lawyer, so maybe he knows something about this.
No.
I don't. But says that person is. This is the I think they call it objective crime. It's the overall crime, the falsifying of the business records. A person is guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree when he commits the crime of falsifying business records in the second degree, and when his attempts to defraud includes an intent to commit another crime and aid or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. So this isn't even I don't know. Maybe there's some reading in the word intent that means that it has to be a but-for. But that's not the way I read that law. It just says that if you falsify
you're confused. I can clarify right now. When you're saying so, the intent is specifically to commit the other crime. The other crime, the allegation is campaign finance crime. And what makes campaign finance crime a crime, according to FICA standards, is if you're but for you running, this expense would have never been logged. So,
this law says it includes the intent. It doesn't say that you have to have that as the sole intent.
No, you have to commit the falsification of business records if you do the falsification of business records with the intent of doing another crime.
It includes the intent. It
has to be. You have to do it with the intent.
With his intent to defraud includes an intent intent to commit another crime. So even if like you're falsifying these business records and this other crime that you're going to be using these falsified business records isn't the sole reason why you're falsifying these business records, this still can count.
No. But in order for that other thing to be a crime, according to FICA standards, the falsification or the violation of campaign finance, this is a but-for
standard. He's going to pivot to one of the two other crimes.
You're mixing up.
We're not talking about FICA. We're talking about the New York statute because he was indicted under.
Look here. In order for this to even be a crime, the federal campaign finance laws, in order for that to even be a crime, you have to establish the but-for. Okay, you have to report it if you only would have paid for this, or you would have not paid for this. But for you running, right? If you are running, and because you are running, you're paying for this, and you don't report it as a donation, then you run afoul of federal finance laws. Okay, have we established that yet?
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about the federal laws.
Oh, I got.
Then hold on, wait. If you're not even talking about the federal laws, then when it says falsifies the business records to commit another crime with the intent of committing another crime, what is that other crime?
The New York election laws.
The New York election law, specifically interference in the 2016 election.
17-152.
But-for does not sound like
This is from one of the chatters. Then I have another question. So this one is going to be, first we'll go with, this one's from iCal right? If Trump's team considered ceasing payments after the election, doesn't that satisfy the but-for standard?
Say it one more time.
If Trump's team considers ceasing payments after the election, doesn't that satisfy the but-for standard?
If Trump's team considers ceasing payments after the election.
Yes. Wouldn't that satisfy the but-for standard?
Not necessarily. It would depend if other things were happening prior to this, such as Stormy Daniels violating her NDA.
All right. So perfect. That leaves it. I'm going to let you answer this as well, Liberal Cluck. That question, but also I have a second question. This is from, I think, Fabian's chat here. If you knew that Trump was falsely convicted by a biased jury, what evidence would convince you to call Trump innocent? And I think this ties to the first question for you. Like, what do you, would you consider that the but-for satisfactory? And then what, in the second question as well.
Regardless of whether the jury biases, the fact that he signed those checks and that led to the falsifying of false business records to be maintained by the Trump organization, and he signed those checks, there would have to be some sort of proof that the election wasn't a part of the reason why he signed those checks for me to think maybe he might be innocent. And I would have to just look into the other two underlying crimes that Alvin Bragg came up with to see if that was if there's anything to that. And then I would say that he's innocent of the felony, but he's still definitely guilty of the misdemeanor.
If he's innocent, if he's innocent of the felony, you can't go.
The statute of limitations had come up on that, but I don't even you would have to. There'd have to be some kind of proof that the election wasn't his concern when he wasn't concerned about the election when he was signing when he was falsifying those checks.
He was doing it.
So let me ask you a question. In 2011, in May he dropped out, and then in October of 2011, Cohen silenced Stormy Daniels' story by threatening to sue the magazine The Dirty. Why did Trump and Michael Cohen try to silence Stormy Daniels in October of 2011?
There's probably plenty of reasons why he tried to silence Stormy Daniels in 2011. What I'm saying is that when he tried to silence Stormy Daniels in 2015, the election was a part of the reason.
Hold on. So you're saying that there are reasons for why they tried to silence Stormy Daniels in 2011.
Yes.
Were those reasons still present prior to the 2016 election?
Probably, yeah. It could have been. Yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
It's definitely possible.
Sure. What evidence do you have that all of a sudden the behavior of Donald Trump would have changed between 2011 and 2015?
Thank you for the sub, Gibbs. I appreciate it. Hell yeah.
Absent the election. Do you have any kind of basis to say that Donald Trump would have acted differently than he had been acting before?
I don't know. Would he have falsified records back then? Possibly, yeah.
So we don't.
But the law.
So we don't know that it was specifically to violate finance law, federal election campaign finance law.
Hold on. None of these laws say that there can't be other reasons.
When you say it can't be other reasons, what are you talking about?
Like you're saying, well, because he had other reasons where he could have done his actions, then the election doesn't have anything to do with it.
Hold on. So this is why the but-for standard is so important. If I take a shower and then I go to campaign, should I be forced to log my water bill as a campaign expense? No, because there's all sorts of reasons why I shower. And I'm going to shower regardless of whether or not I'm running. So I can't say, but for the election, I wouldn't shower. The question here is, if Donald Trump wasn't running for president, would he still have paid off Stormy Daniels? And the only evidence we have of Donald Trump potentially doing this would be that he has done it in the past when he wasn't running for president. There is a history here of him trying to stop Stormy Daniels from coming out with this story. And so if there's no reason, there's no change in circumstances here in terms of other considerations, why in 2011, between 2011 and 2015-16, I think it's pretty clear that the burden of proof, because again, it's criminal, you had to prove that he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I think that the proof here is incredibly insufficient. It's very likely, it's very probable, in fact, that even if Donald Trump wasn't running for president, he still would have had Michael Cohen try to silence the story in 2015 and 16.
Him having Michael Cohen try to silence the story in 2015, 2016 isn't the crime here. Him falsifying the checks is the crime.
It only becomes... Okay, do you agree that the other crime, like when it's saying intend to commit another crime, that is a alleged violation of federal campaign finance?
No, it's the New York State.
Well, there's three theories, so I'm knocking them down one by one, okay?
Okay,
specifically talking about the federal one.
Let's start with the one that Bragg said was his most important one, which is the New York State one.
Mm-hmm. And so we're talking about the New York State one?
Yes.
When he's saying influence the 2016 election.
So wait, hold on. I can read the law.
How is he saying?
Oh no, we're going back to reading the law. Oh no.
I'll read the law. It says conspiracy to promote or prevent an election. Any two or more persons who conspire to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, such as falsifying business records, and which conspiracy is acted upon by one or more parties thereto, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. That is what the state law that Alvin Bragg hinged a lot of his argument on says.
Yeah,
I added the part about the business records just in case you didn't get that.
So I understand you put that in there, but again, the argument fits with both. The underlying allegation is the same between the federal campaign finance allegation and the violation of New York State campaign, election laws. The allegation is that this was done with the intention of influencing the presidential election campaign. Mm-hmm. What is your evidence of this? Because he was doing this before he ran for president. Isn't it possible that he would have been doing this entirely independently of the fact that he's running for president, considering that's what he did in 2011?
It's possible he could have committed crimes even though he wasn't running off for president, yes.
But it wouldn't, hold on, okay, but it wouldn't be a crime, because you agree paying hush money is not a crime.
It's not paying hush money, it's falsifying the documents.
No, I know, but just again, walk with me. Paying hush money is not a crime, we would agree?
No.
Okay, so if Donald Trump pays hush money to Stormy Daniels, let's say he's alleged to do so in 2011, you would agree no crime has been committed, right? Just by doing that? Okay, so if he's silencing the story in 2011, and then he's doing the same thing in 2015 and 16, how could you allege that he's doing that because of some interest in the election, if he's doing that before he even ran?
Well, for one, it's the falsifying of the business records that's the issue. The thing he was indicted on is not paying Stormy Daniels hush money.
Wait, please. Let's just, for the sake of the argument, even though I'm not conceding this, let's just assume that he falsified the business records. Let's just assume it's obvious. Yes, he falsified. When he wrote legal expenses, he was like, I know I should be categorizing this as something else, but I'm not. Let's just say that's the case, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, in order to make it a felony, to make it even chargeable now at this point, you agree it would have to be done for the commission of a different crime, right?
Which is 17-.
Yes. That's the one that turns the misdemeanor into a felony.
Yes.
And so that second crime would be, with the intent to commit the second crime. That's important. And so the intent here is to unlawfully influence the 2016 election. How can you prove that he was trying to influence the 2016 election with this decision to pay hush money if he'd been already trying to silence Stormy Daniels since 2011? It seems like his interest in silencing Stormy Daniels is independent from the fact that he was running for president in 2016 because he's been trying to silence her since 2011.
His interest in silencing Stormy Daniels and falsifying the business records, like that's the thing that we're on here. It includes his 2016 election, which was testified to in court.
Do you think it's possible? Give me, please. Do you think it's possible that Donald Trump, when he was making the payments, the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, that the purpose of this, much like the purpose was in 2011 to try to silence Stormy Daniels, was to protect Donald Trump's reputation, wholly independent of the fact that he was a presidential candidate?
Not in 2016, no. In 2000,
what is your evidence of this?
I think because he was running for president,
but he wasn't in 2011.
The idea that his actions were not influenced by that is.
Let me just.
They weren't influenced by that in 2011.
Hold on, I want to ask a question here, just to clarify, because I'm just a little confused. So this took place, from what I understand, right, is 2011. Is that what y'all are saying? The original sleeping with hush money stuff. Is that correct?
2006, I think, is when the
2006
happened.
So and then
I don't know the truth, Chris. I don't know. I don't know whether to trust Lactoid.
In May of 2011,
I'd have to do my own deep dive on the.
Said he was stepping down. He was
maybe I can, if I get further in the debate tournaments in Lactoid.
2011.
2011, and then it was October of 2011.
I'll avenge the guy.
That quote Daniel's agent Gina Rodriguez leaked the story to the gossip blog The Dirty in October. And then the post was taken down following threatening letters from Trump's lawyers, a.k.a. Michael Cohen.
So just for clarification, between 2006 and 2011, was there money paid? Was that the... No. So he smashed her in 2006. He paid her at some point between then and 2011.
No.
Okay.
He could have, but I don't know. So 2006 happened, he smashed. Then in 2011, the story's going to get leaked to a gossip blog. And then Trump directs his lawyers, and by the way, this is after he is no longer running for president in 2011. And then he directs his attorney, Michael Cohen, his lawyers, to basically go after The Dirty and stop them from publishing the story.
Can I
I'm about to ask you a quick question. Either one, it's about to go to you. This is because I'm trying to clarify for something as the audience. So I guess my question is,
I'm judging it,
right? So if you agree to those facts, then you can dispute them whenever it comes to you, or it seems to be like if he was sleeping with someone in 2006 and between then and 2011 there was an NDA assigned or something along those lines and possibly payments made or whatever, and then she's going to leak it, would you disagree? Do you think that he's worried about this in 2006 because he thinks he's going to run for president then, or like all of this was like, what's your argument? That are you arguing that he was planning for presidential run since 2006 and he didn't want to hide this, or like what? I just to clarify.
I don't think that's irrelevant because the election it seems pretty obvious, and by the testimony and the jury agreed that
Gibbs sets up quite a few panels.
He was worried about the election when he made these decisions. When he did these things, the election was at least a factor. Now, his wife, his reputation, his businesses could have also been factors, and they were still factors back then. I do have a question for Lactoid. Did he, in 2011, falsify business records in order to cover up the Stormy Daniels story?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so there's your evidence that he made a different action, which was falsifying the business records, which is what he's actually was indicted for. In 2016, when he was running for president, the only thing that changed is that he's running for president, and he didn't do that in 2011. That's why it's important for me to keep you focused on the fact that he falsified business records, because that's what he's actually being indicted for, and not the fact that he made hush money payments, because that's not what he's being indicted for.
I'm having difficulty because I thought I made this clear. I understand that he was charged with falsification of business records. You don't have to keep saying it. I understand, yes, 34 felonies, all falsification of business records that were felonies. The question is, what turns it from a misdemeanor, which can't be charged, to a felony? Well, the allegation is that, well, what turns it into a felony is that it's done specifically to like with the intent. Like that means that Donald Trump like actually had the intent to commit a different crime.
Yes,
and so did he have, when he was doing this? Did he
intended to promote his presidential campaign by falsifying business records.
I know you're saying that he intended to promote his campaign. How did he intend to use this to promote his campaign?
By having an extra layer to cover up the fact that he made hush money payments to a porn star.
How does that promote his campaign?
Because the story doesn't get out, and it's harder to track down because it looks like he's paying Michael Cohen a lawyer's fees instead of hush money payments.
So hold on. How is this done specifically to promote his campaign? Are you saying that like, hey, like I don't want to admit that I'm a cheater, and like not admitting you're cheating, you're doing this to promote your campaign?
You're promoting a good character. Yes, absolutely. You're hiding something bad you did in order to get yourself elected.
Gotcha. And if you're hiding something bad that you did, that you've been hiding since 2011, which you had no intention of running at that point.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead with your point.
Yeah. If you're hiding something in 2011 when you're not running, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, you've obviously got this reason for hiding this, mm-hmm. right? Does this like, you're saying that the idea that he would do the exact same thing and he was doing the exact same thing in 2015, you're saying this is just
well, he didn't do the exact same thing.
Wait. The exact same thing when it comes to whether or not it's political. The only question, leave aside the fact that he falsified business records for just a second.
That's the whole indictment.
I know. Leave the whole indictment aside then for just a second.
But that's what we're talking about.
Yes. Leave it aside for just 1 second with me, please.
Okay.
I'm trying to establish here. Did he do this? Like, because the only question is, got to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, right? This is in the light most favorable to Trump. Is it possible, in a light most favorable to Trump, that he did this with the intention of, shutting up Stormy Daniels for personal reasons, like he did in 2011?
I think that he did it for personal reasons, including the election. No, I do not think it's. I think that.
Hold on. Let me ask you this.
The election was a motivator here.
So let me ask you this then, because like that seems to be kind of like the Lactoid's reasonable doubt thing. If you think it's just like one of things, like what percentage do you assign to that? And if so, why does that even matter? Because if it's like 50%, then I don't think that feels reasonable doubt. I mean, I could be wrong, but if it's like 100%, you think it was just the election? What do you a realistic one? What do you think?
I 100% think that the election was included in his reasoning. There could have been other reasons also on top of the election, but all you need for the
in 2011.
No, 2016.
Oh, okay.
All you need for 17-152 is for him to try and influence the election in this way, to promote himself to become president by committing a crime, which was falsifying the documents, he did in order to hide the fact that he was making hush money payments.
All right, real quick. So now before, you can respond. I'll give you like 1 minute here to respond. But then what we're gonna do, I'm gonna if y'all have any questions, I'm gonna let the judges ask for a couple minutes. Then we're gonna go into closing. So go ahead and respond real quick. And then let's see what the judges got here.
Yeah. So just to be clear, it's not, the standard is not the idea of like, hey, he's doing the exact same that he did before, and he would have done the exact same that he did before, but here is some other new potential small percentage possibility that he's considering. That's not the standard. Again, the FICA standard is a but for.
We're not talking about FICA. We're talking about the state law.
Jesus Christ. When it comes to the state law, again, it is not this happens to be one minor factor. Hillary Clinton, prior to this, bought a house in New York with the intention of running in that area, and she had to live there in that area. Her campaign had started before she bought the house to run in this area. Is it possible that at some tiny percentage of the reason why she bought the house to run in this area has to do with the fact that she was running for office in that area?
Sure, but Hillary Clinton didn't commit a crime when buying the house.
No, but she would have ran afoul of federal campaign finance laws by buying the house, or not federal finance laws. She would have run afoul of this specific of the New York law if she had done so by violating FICA laws, which she would have done if your standard is correct.
All right, fantastic. All right, judges, let's start with Fabian. You got any questions for our two of them?
Yeah. So, it seems to be that we're kind of running and looping in this debate on circles on this concept of but for. And so my question is to Lactoid as well as Liberal Cluck, right? I think both of you would admit that the likelihood of this coming out in the election is probably, at least in part of the motivation, or at the very least a good reason to engage in the behavior that he did. Correct? So that's the first part. Would you both agree to that? That it's a good reason at the very least to try and hide a potential scandal in the midst of a political election.
Sure.
Yeah, I 100% think that was a part of the reason.
Well, you think it's the majority reason, right?
Yeah,
so
probably. When
we're discussing the concept of but for, right? The natural follow up here is if he wasn't electing, if he wasn't in the midst of an election, would this have occurred? And it seems like Lactoid is trying to establish that this would have occurred because he did it in the past. Do you, Liberal Cluck, do you believe that if Donald Trump wasn't running for election, but Stormy Daniels was about to expose again the fact that he was cheating on his wife, that he would have spent some form of hush money and then potentially just said, oh, these are legal fees, so that his wife and media and journalists and all these other people don't find out about it, and that there isn't a paper trail?
I don't think he would have falsified the documents because he didn't do that in the past. We don't have any reason to believe that he would have done it in 2016, but for the election.
Do we have the check that was signed in 2011?
Yes, we do.
And
2011, I don't know.
And it says this is Stormy Daniels' hush money, or does that check also?
I don't know, but it wouldn't be my responsibility to provide that because that's not a part of my argument.
I mean, if you were arguing the case, it would be. But fair enough. I'm just you saying that he didn't do that, so it is part of your argument because your argument states he did not do that in 2011, but you don't know.
He doesn't believe he did that. Like that was what my opponent said.
I believe he said that he doesn't believe he falsified business records, which he also doesn't believe about 2016. So just, I'm not trying to be an asshole, right? Like,
listen,
for whatever reason,
you're asking questions, yeah.
If we got the check from 2011, right,
mm-hmm.
and it said lawyers' fees, would you be like, fuck it, he's innocent, or not?
I would say that the but-for argument would hold more water than it does right now.
That's my question. Fair enough.
Okay. Nonfon 420. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I guess. So do we need to, in order for there to be a criminal conviction, do we need to prove the but for intent beyond a reasonable doubt?
It doesn't. By the way, the laws will work. Written, it doesn't seem like the but for is even relevant in my opinion. But Lactoid's a lawyer, so he might.
I know this is Nonfons, but do we agree that reasonable doubt is the standard for a criminal conviction?
For a criminal conviction,
beyond reasonable doubt, but the idea that he committing this crime, it wouldn't be a crime because he would have done it in 2011 without the election. Like it doesn't seem like it would be. It doesn't seem like the way this law is written.
Okay.
But then maybe there's some kind of jurisprudence that says that about this law that wasn't provided in this debate.
There is no jurisprudence. This is a novel case. This has been charged against Trump in this situation and nobody else. Right.
So 17-152 has never been charged against anybody?
Not in this way. Not in this way.
Has it ever been like there's got to be?
I don't know. I don't know. It's possible that it was charged in some other potential situation, but it never has it been the case where there's been 34 misdemeanors that are been specifically moved up to felonies to get past the statute of limitations, with the theories here being that the falsification of business records was having to do with this kind of like melding with election law. This is a entirely novel situation.
I would imagine.
And so the question is,
let him finish.
I would imagine.
Let him finish.
Middle sentence, and then you can say something.
Okay.
Again, like I hate to feel like I'm looping here a little bit, right? But the point that I'm trying to like really hammer home here is that but for is critical to establish any kind of campaign, any kind of actual felony here, because otherwise you fall into like complete absurdity, right? Can you imagine if, let's say Donald Trump writes a check to his water company when he took a shower before he went out on stage? Did he, and the bill, and it doesn't specify, the check doesn't specify, it just says like to water company. It doesn't specify what the check is for. And the water company cashes the check. Did he falsify that business record in order to influence the election by making sure that he was scrubbed clean and looked good and looked fresh for the cameras?
There is something important to point out here is that these weren't just like personal checks from Donald Trump's. The falsified records were a part of the Trump organization.
They were not part of the campaign.
It was a part of the Trump. That's why it's a business, a falsifying of business records. It's not his personal records.
Okay, you can alter my hypothetical slightly. Let's say the Trump organization paid a water bill
for his
Trump
water
used.
Bill.
Yeah, which by the way, Trump organization which Trump owns.
Nonfon, does this answer your question, or do you have a? You can go if you have another one. Feel free to jump on that.
I mean, I got my answer from Liberal Cluck. He doesn't think it's relevant. But Lactoid, I'm curious. Do you think that we need to prove the but for beyond a reasonable doubt in order to get the conviction?
I do. I think that you have to prove a but for. I think that the argument as to, I think that the tax thing is ridiculous. The FICA violation, I think that's the one that I think you'd really have to prove, like the but for. The New York election statute is I think particularly egregious because the argument is, well, it's a misdemeanor because the actual law and Section 17152, quote, conspiracy to promote or prevent election, any two or more persons who conspire to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, and which conspiracy is acted upon by one or more of the parties thereto, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. And so you got to prove, in order to establish this, you have to prove that they were conspiring to alter the election through unlawful means, or to promote the election through unlawful means. I don't think that you make it. I don't think you make it that he was falsified business records. I don't think that you make it that he promoted the election. And I think you run afoul of some key legal principles if you're going to try to use the unlawful element of 17152. If you're going to try to wrap in the falsification of business records as the unlawful means, you're essentially turning a misdemeanor into a felony by a predicate of that requires the misdemeanor to begin with. It doesn't make any sense, right?
It does because
you can charge this as a felony in almost every single situation. Then.
You could theoretically falsify business records and not have
Hold on. Nonfon. Did you want to say something else in there before we can move on?
Oh, I said it was okay. You can move on.
Okay, perfect. All right, I would like to get one more question, Nonfon, but unfortunately we're gonna run out of time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do closings. We're gonna do the inverse order we did last time. I believe Cluck started. Is that correct? Yeah. And then Lactoid, you'll start. I'm gonna give you. Well, I was going to give you more time, but you're going to get 3 minutes is what you're going to get to go. And at 3 minutes, I'm cutting you off, whoever's still going. So feel free and starting now. I'll give you this will be 30 seconds. All right, so I'll leave that. Yeah. So I'll start it now, but this will be 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then I'll just count you down at 10.
Okay. Go ahead and cut me off if I go over. It's fine. So I don't think that falsification of business records has been proven. Again, it's perfectly rational and natural that when you have an attorney, hey, I'm paying you for legal expenses. I don't think that the requisite proof has been provided that this was actually intended to hide something in any kind of illegal way. I think it's probably the case that he was saying, hey, don't specify exactly what it was for. I don't want my wife finding out. I don't want other people finding out about that. But that's perfectly reasonable. When you write a check to lawyers for legal expenses, they don't necessarily have to specify in that check all the different things that they charge for, writing motion, deposition transcript, et cetera, et cetera. Oftentimes it's just simply a check for legal expenses. That's perfectly natural and perfectly rational. I don't think that you've established an intent that this was done with any intent to falsify. And even if you could somehow prove that this was the case, I think that this would be a misdemeanor with the statute of limitations already passed. And so the only way to bring back the statute of limitations, sort of bring the case back to life, is through turning it into felonies. And the three theories presented by Bragg, I think, fall on their face independently. The tax issue wasn't even talked about. I think that was relatively conceded. He paid more in taxes. There's no real reason why you would want to conspire. It would make sense to intend to commit tax fraud to pay more taxes. Definitely not beyond a reasonable doubt.
What if you're just really
when it comes to violation of FICA? The arguments can be the same thing as when it comes to the New York law. I don't think there's actually evidence here that this was done with the intention of altering the campaign. I think this was done very much along the same lines as he did before in 2011. If he didn't do this in 2011 and he had just let Stormy Daniels do whatever right up until his election, maybe you could argue at that point that this was done for a specific electoral purpose. But I think the smoking gun here is the fact that before he was running, this had nothing to do with his campaign whatsoever. Michael Cohen and his lawyers were going after Stormy Daniels to try to silence the fact that she was talking about an extramarital affair that Donald Trump had. Plenty of reasons why somebody might want to not have an extramarital affair come out, especially if they're married and if they have a bunch of business dealings. The New York election law, I think that you have a contradiction in law if you're using this to turn a misdemeanor into a felony by appealing to the misdemeanor itself. And I also think that if you're going to say it's due to some other unlawful purpose as specified in 1715, you have to prove FICA and you have to prove the tax fraud, neither of which I think you'll be able to do. This was because of a biased judge, prosecutor, and jury. I think that Donald Trump is not guilty of 34 felonies, and I would have voted against his conviction if I was part of that jury.
Right, fantastic. All right, we just reset this, and Cluck, you got the last statement here, and then we'll have some judging, and I'll tell you how the judges work. All right, fantastic. Go ahead.
I think that the idea that the judge, all 12 members of the jury, and the prosecutor in this case was just all biased against Trump, and that's the only reason why he got convicted, is way more fantastical than the idea that Donald Trump falsified those business records
Should have brought that up earlier.
to help
But I
promote
don't know
himself
what
in his
Lactoid's gonna say to that,
2016 election. Lactoid said that the smoking gun is that he didn't is that he tried to pay hush money to Stormy Daniels in 2011. Therefore, there's no but for with the 17-52, the New York election law. However, there is no evidence that Lactoid has been able to bring up that Donald Trump actually falsified business records in 2011, which would be a new act in which he committed in order to promote himself to be president. So the fact that he actually paid hush money isn't what's on trial here. The fact that he falsified documents, which the 9 checks and the other 33 documents, the invoices and ledgers, they were all presented to the jury. Goodness gracious. Sorry, I had a chat come in. Yeah, so he says that falsifying business records was not proven. The checks have his signature on it. Not all of them do, but they have his signature on them with the falsified reason for paying Michael Cohen. It just seems so cut and dry to me. I'm not it's pretty obvious that Trump signed those checks. It's pretty obvious that he put the wrong reasoning on those checks, and it's pretty obvious that he did so in order to hide the fact that he slept with Stormy Daniels and paid her hush money before the election so that he has a better chance of winning the presidency. That's all I got.
You don't have to end there. You still got 1 minute.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
All right, perfect. Chat. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put the voting up. Chat. Y'all vote on who see if I get it. Who won? Real simple there. The judges in here. All right, y'all DM me each who y'all think won, and then we'll announce at the end of the show. And we're about to switch here to the other debate, which is going to be, is healthcare a human right with our boys. Thank you, Lactoid TV, and thank you, Liberal Cluck, for being the very first one. Maybe in many years when we're all rich and famous, y'all will be able to look back on this day and say y'all were the first ones in the inaugural tournament with pride, or we can laugh at you. I don't know. We'll see. Always got to be a first winner and loser. So anyway, moving on. Thank you all so much for being here. Shout out y'all's channels while we wait before we switch over. Tell us what you are, what you do.
Oh yeah, I'm Liberal Cluck on Kick and YouTube. Lactoid, thank you so much for debating me. It was fun.
Yeah. No, thank you for talking. Lactoid TV. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube.
Fabian, give us who won and why.
Yeah, I don't think it's much of a surprise that I voted for Lactoid. I did everything I could to kind of be fair here, but Liberal Cluck, it's a bit unfair for you going up against a lawyer, right? I think if you're going to go up against a lawyer in the future, you have to prepare more in terms of being able to understand the full aspects of the wording of law, because just what the pundits say is one thing, but you got to watch a lawyer review something, have them go into depth and detail about it, for sure. And then also you stumbled in the very beginning with the opening statement, right? Like you didn't really have one, and then kind of like Lactoid had to go. Now I would say I do think Lactoid had a few issues. I think he capitalized a little bit too much without enough like punches, right? So you said a lot kind of because, and again, it's because it's a legal debate. You know, you said a lot, but it was like kind of going in circles. I think you could have had a little bit more blood sports in there, maybe a little bit less repetition of those things, you know, and just been more incredulous. Like, dude, I fucking said this already. I'm not repeating it. You're wrong. And then just moved on to like the next argument. You know, oh, that's the wrong one. Here we go. I think you did a really good job, Liberal Cluck, when you were kind of like thrown off by an audience question. You had kind of said, but where is it? Oh, maybe I didn't write it down. Regardless, you were given an audience question. You were like, kind of like, oh, I don't know how to answer this. And then you like, you figured out your footing midway through, and it's obvious that like you weren't prepared for it, but nevertheless, like you recovered and gave like your side's decent argument from it. And like, I respect that because it shows that you have talent for debating if you prepare more and you get more practice, for sure. And then, yeah, I think your bias argument also, Lactoid, is a weak argument. I don't think it matters. Like, unless you're going to harp on it more. You kept bringing up the bias, but you didn't attach that to an argument. But nevertheless, I think with the opening statements, with the facts of the case, with the legal theory, et cetera, I think Lactoid won. But there's room for improvement on both sides. And I appreciate it. It was a good debate.
All right. Nonfon. Who won the first one? What?
Yeah, I should have written down my reasoning. I forget by now. But I voted for Lactoid. I think as someone who does not have a good understanding of the New York case, I felt like Lactoid was able to explain it to me pretty well. And I feel like he did overall like better job explaining his position and like why the things he's saying are true. I feel like he had better knowledge of the case. I would have liked to see Liberal Cluck push back a little more on I guess on the bias thing, because I do think that's probably one of the weaker things Lactoid said, and B, just on some of the, I mean, I think you would have had better knowledge to do this, or maybe you did and nervous or whatever, but to push back on Lactoid's explanation of why the legal theories are not necessarily good. That's
all right. Oh, perfect. All right. Okay, so on the first one, the chat had decided as well that the Lactoid was winner. So we got 3-1, 3-0. I mean 3-0. I can't do math on that one with the Lactoid win. All right, let's turn it over to the other side. Good try, Cluck. That was good. That was very brave of you to challenge a lawyer to a
Yeah,
debate
I want
case.
to point out I challenged a lawyer
For sure,
on
yes.
Trump's the most inconsequential, the one that everyone said was the weakest case. So yeah, congratulations, Lactoid.
Also, I want to before
Fair,
we move over to the next point, before we move over to the next thing, I'm going to show on my stream here just to explain something here, because people have been asking how some of these matchups were decided, and I'm going to explain that. So some people called people out, like Cluck called Lactoid out, right? And so usually, if you know how I expect, maybe I should have been more explanatory in this, but I'm basing this on how we do fantasy MMA in forum format, right? And so this is going to be a Grand Prix, right? And usually Grand Prix have seeding. So I took the people that had already called each other out, and I seeded them based on how I thought that was going to be. Unfortunately for Liberal Cluck, I mean, not as familiar with Liberal Cluck. I've debated him a few times. I thought it was very brave of him to call a lawyer, but this was going to be my 1v8 matchup. And if you know how tournaments do, you usually do 1v8, 2v7, et cetera, 3v6. So on this, so now to be fair, some of these, the seedings kind of just doesn't really matter. Fabian came in kind of late. Originally, we were going to have a debate. Nonfon was debating a different lawyer. So, I kind of seeded it that way. So the seeding's wrong a little bit different there. I don't know if where I would have put him originally. Now, that being said, going on there, like I said, some of these debates have been called out. Others, I'm going to decide the topics. Some of them don't know what the topic's going to be, and others do. So, I guess that sucks for the ones that don't know, but I'll tell them probably tomorrow or the next day, and they'll have about a week to prepare. Going on, yeah, does that make sense? And I also picked people from different brackets to be on this first one, if that makes sense. So if that's the answer to all those questions, I tried to do it off seating. It's arbitrary. We had fill-ins and we had whatever. So yeah, if it doesn't seem balanced or whatever, that's why. In regards to that, people were saying, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, props to Liberal Cluck for trying to take out a lawyer in his own argument. Big fan there. Good showing. And then when we do the seasonal format, you're obviously going to be welcome back. I'll explain how that works when we get there.
If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.